My name's Mandy. I'm from Scotland and I have a kind of normal day job, but on the side, I'm also an actor and a writer. I make short films and things like that. Today, I'm just going to give you a little bit of insight on where I get my inspiration from and my creative process. Um, Being a kind of writer in my spare time, it's not quite as structured as it probably should be. My writing is very often based on some kind of emotional upheaval. It's very hard for me to write when I'm in a good place in my life. I find that I if something bad happens, I have to dramatize it in some way or show it in some kind of symbolism. Recently, a project I've worked on shows a female character who is in a catatonic state in a mental hospital, and what we see is what's going on in her head, and her personality and her life force essentially is being repressed by another character inside her head, and that was basically born of a scenario that I was in where someone within my life was affecting me probably more than I would normally have let them. So in this, it gives me a chance to write out how I'm feeling about them, how I'm feeling about the scenario, how I'm feeling about the situations I'm in, and then and a lot of times find some kind of conclusion. There's been scenarios. The very first short film I wrote was about a very unhappy relationship I was in, and I got that out by becoming a villainous and killing off horrible men who lied lots. But unfortunately, in her eyes, everybody lied, and it was just the emotional state I was in at the time. Once I get an idea in my head, once I get started with it and start to build on it, and I obviously have to then go and write it down and everything else. And that can be quite a laborious process for me because I'm very good at picturing it all up here, but getting it from here onto the page and into a workable format, I find that quite difficult sometimes. So I have to keep reminding myself of the emotions that I felt and what's motivating me to do this. It can be through watching other things that are in a similar vein. More often than not, it's done through music. Music, 100%. Um, I tie into lyrics and music and musicality very, very heavily in my day to day life. So if I'm trying to write something, um, I I pick a kind of a series of tunes that fit the feeling and fit the emotion, and then I just play them as I write. And it can be horrible, it can be really, really tough because you're essentially reminding yourself of a horrible, horrible feeling, a negative thing that's happened in your life, and and playing it over and over in your head. I mean, it can be very therapeutic, but it can also be very, very difficult. I mean, my I have a lot of friends in the creative industry, and they do um, have different levels of kind of stress or mental health related issues, and they do often say that it's very common for someone with mental health issues to be very creative. Um, I'd probably back up that theory and add myself to the numbers that go with that. I have bipolar, and as I say, when I'm stable, when everything's fine, I really, really struggle to write. But when I'm maybe feeling a little bit more off balance, or if I'm having a particularly manic time or a particularly depressive time, I find it a lot easier to write. My genres tend to be around the kind of horror and thriller and things that are maybe slightly more horrible, slightly more twisted, and maybe a little bit scary. But I find fear is a very difficult thing. What's scary to one person might not be to another. I do try and do comedy occasionally, but I'm not very good at it, I have to admit. I definitely think I stick better to the slightly darker genres. Once I actually have something written and have something down, I am a bit of a perfectionist. I read through the script, I read it out loud, I get friends to read it with me, and then I go back and I change it all, because something I have learned through being an actor and a writer is something can look really, really good on a page, and when you read it, like scan your eyes over it, it looks really good, it looks really powerful. But then when somebody actually reads it out, it loses its power, or it just doesn't come across right. So you do have to tweak things, and I have to admit, with my scripts, I'm very kind of open to people throwing their own interpretations on lines, because I think that in creating a character and the lines for that character, it's as much about the actor as it is about the writing. You have to allow for a bit of leeway and allow the actor to become that character. And if I've always had actors that I really trust, and I know that they'll take on board the character and they'll play it well, they'll become that person. And so any kind of any improvisation or anything like that, they're gonna do it in the style of my character. They're gonna do it justice. So yeah. So I suppose in a kind of slightly condensed form, it's a therapeutic writing is a therapeutic thing for me. It comes at times when I'm probably at my lowest. But it's something I dearly enjoy, and I do try and push myself in the times when I'm maybe I'm feeling really good, so I just can't write. I do try and push myself, and I do plan to do so this weekend. I have a couple of ideas that I'm working on just now and developing. So yeah, advice wise for anyone else, free write. Free writing has saved my backside so many times. You just sit down and write what's in your head, see what comes out. It might be absolute rubbish, but you could come out with an absolute gem. I mean, you can start from a conversation that's actually happened, and then write what you wanted to happen. If you ever had the situation where you're with someone and you have a conversation, and you walk away from it thinking, I should have said that, I should have said that. Do it, write it down. And you might find it going in a completely different direction, and it'll give you something to work from. And even if you never go back to that piece of free writing again, it gets things that are up here out onto the paper, and it helps get you into that routine of just emptying your head onto a page, which I personally find is just the best feeling ever, when you get to just empty out what's up here down onto the page. So I hope that's been interesting in some way. I'm quite happy to expand on it at any time. If anyone needs any more info, certainly get in touch through Clark. But yeah, so thank you for listening, and I'll hopefully speak to you soon. Bye.